This episode of the Europuck podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. Have you ever wanted to give yourself better odds on winning a bet? Well, ladies and gentlemen, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you the chance to do exactly that. All players who bet on Sunday night's basketball game between LA and Denver will have a hand in lowering the over-under on the game. That's right, you heard me right, folks. For every 1,000 players who bet the over on Sunday night's game, the over-under will drop by 1 whole point. If that isn't enough excitement for you though, there is also a huge title fight happening in this weekend's UFC 258, so if you're a big MMA fan, make sure you get in on the action before it's too late. Whatever you're betting on, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. I've been using DraftKings for several years now, never had a problem with them whatsoever. You can withdraw your money, deposit money whenever you need to. It's safe, simple, easy, and everybody's happy at the end of the day. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN when you sign up to hammer the over on Sunday night's basketball game when LA takes on Denver. For every 1,000 players that bet the over on Sunday night's game, the line will decrease by 1 whole point. This is your chance to improve the odds, folks, so tell your friends. This is a team effort. Hammer the offer and improve your odds of doubling. That's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. A big thank you for DraftKings for sponsoring this episode. Hello, bonjour, hello, hi, heya, and privyet, hockey fans. Welcome back to the Europuck podcast, the show where two Brits talk all things European hockey as part of the Hockey Podcast Network, brought to you by both DraftKings and Cross-Check Clothing. My name is Hayden, or Odd Man Rush, as you can see up there on the video version, and joining me once again is, of course, the one, the only, the stats man himself with the slightly dodgy internet, Chris Gadsby. Hey, Chris.
Hello, yes, internet being as good as it normally is, really.
Yeah, we'll make do, We always do, you know, why not? So, how you been? How you been, Chris? It's been a while.
Yes, not too bad. We've got some snow again. It's about the third time since the new year that we've had snow in this part of the world, and normally we get it about once every 2 years, and we've had it 3 times so far this year. So yeah, they're going well. We decided not to make a snowman this time though.
Oh, really? Okay. So, see, where I live, kind of in the east of England, we barely ever get snow. Like, the rest of the country has to have had snow for at least a day or two before we get the chance to even get a little drop. And we had, like, the tiniest bit of snow a week or two ago. Like, I think also one of those times where you said you'd had some as well. But then over the last couple of days, pretty much over the weekend, there's some sort of storm and they've named it some strange name, as they always do, or some like really obscure name that like nobody would ever name their kids usually. And they we had this flurry of snow that's come down for the last couple of days. And I was sitting there talking to my family, and it's like, I don't think we've had this much snow in the last 4 or 5 years. So like, all of the like our listeners from North America that either live in Canada, where snow like happens every year except one day in summer, or like you have like the more like Central European people that get more snow than we do, but not nearly as much as some other places. Yeah, like snow is not a thing over here. So the fact that we've had it here, especially where I live, is kind of like, wow, like either global warming is getting like closer to killing us all off, or we get a nice little present because lockdown's been absolutely terrible for most people. But yeah, I've got to say, like, it's been really nice to see how people have kind of forgotten about the current situation for the last couple of days. And it's like kids have had the chance to go out and play in the snow. Adults are kind of like reliving their childhood and having a bit of nostalgia and kind of being kids again. It's been really nice to kind of, it's been a good thing to take everybody's mind off kind of sitting at home and potentially doing nothing for such a long period of time. Like, how much snow have you actually had up there, Chris?
4 or 5 inches this time around, I would say. Okay. It's not been mad, but it's been a decent amount. But as you said, it's been nice where the weather has dominated the news, and basically you can't go anywhere because all the roads are shut, rather than you can't go anywhere because you're not allowed. It's been a nice change.
Yeah, tell me about it. So, weather aside, let's talk about some hockey, shall we, Chris? Because the good thing is we actually feel a little bit more like hockey fans, because we haven't had hockey here all year, autumn and winter and everything. But now we got some snow here. We could strap on some skates and get ready to play with some of the big boys across Europe. So let's take you through the scores like we always do. If you're surprised at this point, either you're new here or you've not been paying attention for the last 6 months. So here we go. Let's bring up the stats. Here they are. Boom. Wonderful. Let's go with the KHL first. So what I've noticed is there's a lot of playoff berths that have been secured in the KHL. Obviously, we're getting very close to the end of the season. I believe the season ends on February the 27th because I'm hoping to make a KHL-related video on the 28th once the season's over. So I had a little look. I was like, okay, so it's literally the day before the end of the month. So I'll just take you quickly through. And Chris, I believe you've written up a few little things that you want to like highlight in the league and everything. So I'll take them through this, and then I'll hand it over to you. So, in the Western Conference, we have the top 4 teams that have secured their place in the playoffs already, and that is, of course, CSKA Moscow, SK St. Petersburg, Dynamo Moscow, and Lokomotiv Yaroslavl. Then there's a pretty big gap compared to 4th and 5th. We've got Jokerit, although they do have a couple of games in hand, 61 points in 52 games. Dynamo Minsk with the same amount of points, but 2 more games played. Sevastopol Sharopovets and Vityaz Podolsk taking up the final playoff berths at the moment. However, Spartak Moscow still very much in the race, but then you've got HC Sochi and Dinamo Riga that are very much out of the race, I would imagine. And then in the Eastern Conference, everything's pretty much decided now, ladies and gents. We've got all 8 playoff berths decided. It's just a question now of where the teams finish. So we've got Akbars Kazan, Avangard Omsk, Metalurg Magnitogorsk, Salavat Yuleev, Traktor Chelyabinsk, Torpedo, Avtomobilist Yekaterinburg, who have really dropped compared to their start this year. They've really kind of struggled down the stretch, and then Baris Nur Sultan. So we know who's made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, just need to figure out where it's going to be. There's a couple of weeks to figure that out. And then the 4 teams that have unfortunately missed out on the playoffs this year: Sibir Novosibirsk, Amur Khabarovsk, Neftekhimik, and Kunlun Red Star. Before I do hand it over to you, Chris, I don't know if you were going to mention this. I don't think you were, because it's not stats related. I don't know if you saw this, Chris, but a game against or a game with Metalurg Magnitogorsk these last couple of days. Sergei Mozyakin, or Mozyakin, however you pronounce his last name. I've had a couple of people tell me specific ways to say it, and I'm still unsure. I don't know if you saw, but he actually played in a KHL game with his son this last week, which I thought was really cool.
I did see that, and one of the quiz questions later is based around that sort of thing.
Oh, is it? Okay, fair. That's not like the actual question.
I did see that.
It's not the actual question.
No.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
No.
So, yeah, I thought that was awesome. And I had to look up the ages because Sergei Mozyakin is 39 turning 40, and his son, I believe his name is Andrei Mozyakin, he is 19. So, you know, he got the chance to play with his dad. It's very much like a Gordie Howe kind of situation, isn't it? I don't know. There's just something about this kind of like, you know what? Like, the chances of this happening in hockey is so rare given how long players play in their careers and everything. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, that's really cool. But anyway, Chris, I've rambled on enough. Take us through your thoughts on the KHL standings so far.
Yeah, so I was going to say, in the West, the East, it's all been decided. Baris Nur Sultan picked up the final spot by beating Sibir, actually, by 3-2 on Friday. So it wasn't just a case of the games ran out. They actually went and beat them. As you said, there could still be some movement in the seedings, but we now know the 8 teams. It's also worth mentioning Akbars Kazan and CSKA Moscow are only a game or so away from clinching the top berth as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
In the Western Conference, 4 sides are guaranteed it, as you've said. Now 4 teams out of 5 making the playoffs because Sochi and Riga can't make it. There were 3 games since last week. Spartak Moscow really going toe-to-toe with Podolsk for that final spot. Now, for those of you who, of course, missed it last week or in case have forgotten, Vityaz and Spartak Moscow play against each other on the final game of the season. That has the potential to be a really cracker of a game. Other movements, you've got Lokomotiv Yaroslavl. They had a pair of losses last week, so they've fallen below Dynamo Moscow, and Dynamo Minsk have fallen below Jokerit. In the East, as you said, after Mobilist Yekaterinburg, they've dropped a couple of spots because Traktor and Novgorod picked up wins and OT losses.
Interesting. So, as you've said, the Eastern Conference is pretty much sewn up. We don't really need to talk too much about them until the end of the season, I would argue, which, to be fair, is only in a couple of weeks' time. We'll obviously keep you up to date with the KHL because it is one of, if not the biggest league in the continent and across Europe. But I think all eyes have kind of turned to the Western Conference now, unless you're a fan of a specific Eastern Conference team. All eyes have turned to the Western Conference to see, okay, who are going to be the 4th of the 5 teams to clinch the positions. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see. It's nice to see that Mozyakin might get to play a playoff game with his son. in the next couple of weeks, which would be a lot of fun, especially considering they've won 5 straight games. They're going on a bit of a streak here. They could even take second if so it's very much like you mentioned. So Moscow and Kazan have pretty much sewn up their positions at the top of the conference. There's a lot of like inter battles that are going to be taking place. Like Omsk, Magnitogorsk, and Salavat could all take the second seed. And then you've got St. Petersburg, Dynamo Moscow, and Lokomotiv that could all take the second seed in their respective conference as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll keep you up to date as we always do. I do like to keep an eye on the KHL. It's such a crazy league. I really miss the fact that they didn't have an all-star game this year because their all-star game is absolutely nuts. It's so much more entertaining than the NHL one. But I digress. Let's talk about the Swedish Hockey League now, shall we? Chris, do you want to take us through the standings of the Swedish Hockey League so far?
Yep, I can do that. So nobody is guaranteed a playoff spot.
Okay.
Because they are still so kind of early in the season. Well, there's 10 games to go, but still nobody's guaranteed a playoff spot.
Wow, there's only 10 games to go of the Swedish Hockey League. That I feel
like 52-game season. Yeah, well, Vaksko have got 10 games to go. Everybody else has got more, which is kind of why they haven't got one. They are 39 points clear, though, of Oskarshamn, who have 39 points available.
Wow.
So unless Vasco take a 10-game regulation losing streak and Oskarshamn go on a 13-game regulation winning streak, then Vasco are at least in.
Okay, fair enough.
It's been good at the bottom as well. 2 wins for Malmo, 1 for Brinas. So with the games in hand, expect to see them start to climb up that table. Just interestingly, when I was writing all this stuff yesterday, Brinas were having a game and they were winning at the time that I was writing it, and that climbs them up to 10th. So it is really tight down at the bottom. Skellefteå have jumped for Lunda, and then H371 have got 5 points from 6 to climb a couple of places ahead of Oskarshamn and Linkopings. So it's still the Lakers up at the top, Rögle in second, Lelea in third, Skellefteå in fourth, Frölunda in fifth, and Örebro in sixth are the first round buys in the playoffs. Lekstans, Färjestad, Desjardins and H371 are in the first round of the playoffs. But as I said, if you look down at the bottom there, 2 points separating the bottom 4 sides, and those 2 teams that are in the playout round at the moment have plenty of games in hand.
I've got to say, I feel like the Swedish Hockey League season has just really quietly gone about its business and it's like, oh, by the way, we've got like 10 games left to play. We're almost done. Like the KHL season, obviously, we've been keeping a really keen eye on. The Swedish Hockey League season, we've been keeping an eye on since the season began. But as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been any notable shutdowns in the league for a couple of weeks like the Finnish Liga had to do. There's been no issues like the National League in Switzerland had to deal with. They've just kind of gone about their business, and it's been really interesting because, like, oh, I see teams that have played like 40 games this season. Oh, they've still got a decent chunk to go. No, they're going to be done in like 6 weeks' time. That just really surprises me. I don't know if that's just me. Is that just me, Chris?
It kind of jumped out at me a bit. I mean, obviously, I went down and noted what all the regular season game numbers were, and it did jump out a bit. If I have a look at just the Lakers, so when do they finish? They finish. See, the thing is that they've got 12 games to go, but they still go to the end of March.
Oh wow, okay.
So they are only playing like kind of 1 game a week, probably more than 3 games a fortnight, probably sort of thing. So there's still plenty of time in that, rather than the KHL where you think 10 games to go, that's 3 weeks. There are still kind of 6 weeks to go in the SHL season. So plenty still to look at. But I think that battle at the bottom, I think everyone HV71 in 10th down, they're really in that fight.
And it's going to be so fun to watch. Like, we're really in the dog days of the season now for a lot of these leagues. Like, the NHL season's only just getting started. It's about a month in, whereas we're sitting here talking about the dog days of these European leagues. And obviously, it's always more exciting once you get to the postseason and the playoffs and the champions and everything. And hopefully this year, a lot of these leagues will actually be able to crown a champion, which would be really, really nice. So let's move on to the third league, which is the Finnish Liga, as most of you, I would imagine, would expect, based on how we've done this for the last few months. I will take you through the standings, and then I'll get Chris's thoughts. So, in first place, we have Lukko with 69 points in 31 games. Bit of a gap there compared to some of the other teams, not just in the number of points, but also the games played as well. The Pelicans, 60 points with 2 more games played than Lukko. Then you've got Kuku, Isles, Kalpa, Helsinki taking the first round bye positions. There's only really 3 points separating third from sixth, though, so still plenty to play for. Then in the kind of first round playoff berths, you've got Tapara, TPS Turku, Karpat, and Asat. Whereas you could say that Tapara and Turku have kind of got a decent cushion above Karpat, and especially Asat, considering they've played a lot more games than the other teams. Then you've got Vasan Sport, you've got Eucarit, you've got Saipa, JYP, and Hamelina outside of the playoffs at the moment. Vasan Sport is close enough. Only a win away, essentially, from tying Asat in the points. Eucarit, you could say they're still competitive. Saipa, yes, but JYP and Hamelina, I would like to think, or not like to think, but I have to think that their chances of making the postseason are almost beside them, which, once again, surprising for a former Champions Hockey League winner, the best team in Europe, now looking like they're going to be one of the penultimate spots outside of the playoffs. So, not the best season for them, but as I mentioned in the previous segment, there was a stoppage here, so there's still a decent chunk of games to play here compared to the SHL and the KHL. So, who knows what could happen, but the way the trends are looking, it looks like we're starting to see the teams that are sitting at the top and the teams that are sitting at the bottom. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, so the Liga are only kind of halfway through their season, really, 60-game season for the Liga. So, lots still to go. Tapara, they're the team in form. They're now, they've won 3 games this last week. They're on a 7-game winning streak.
Oh, wow, okay.
And Luco have further extended their lead at the top because the Pelicans have picked up some losses. In terms of movement, Kuko and Ilves, they've swapped places, and TPS Turku have dropped down to 8th. Asat and Vasan Sport have also swapped, again, because Asat got a couple of wins with a couple of losses for Vasan in recent weeks, so they've swapped as well.
Okay, interesting. So this will be one of those leagues that I think we'll be keeping an eye on a lot longer, or a lot longer in terms of the regular season compared to some of the other leagues out there. As we mentioned, Swedish Hockey League's done by end of March. The KHL's done by the end of this month, so we're going to be talking postseason for those guys. Then, of course, we're going to have a league like the Finnish Liga that's going to be another couple of weeks or months or so. You were going to say something, Chris?
We're going to be... Yeah, I was going to say we're going to be... because the Liga is going through until mid-April, so we're going to be in like the second and third rounds of the KHL playoffs by the time the Liga finishes its regular season. Which
is going to be fun, because it means that we get to focus a little bit more on specific teams in certain leagues that have made the playoffs and kind of do like an end of season report to all of the teams that missed out on the playoffs, but also keeping you up to date with scores that are still going on around Europe, because that's what we like to do. We don't want to just focus on a specific league where it's like, okay, now half the teams have been eliminated from that league, we've only got so much to talk about. We can also be like, hey, this league's actually still going on, so if you want to keep an eye on a league and see how things are going, check out the Finnish Liga, Right, let's move on to the Swiss National League now, or the National League as it's called now, because it used to be called the Swiss National League. It's the National League A. I'm still very confused on what it's actually called. I think it's the National League A or the National League. I believe that's what it's called.
National League.
Yeah, the National League. We'll just call it the National League. I like to call it the Swiss National League because, it's in Switzerland and it's easy to differentiate from the rest of the leagues. I call it the Finnish Liga. It's not called the Finnish Liga. It's called the SM Liga, So I call it the Finnish Liga. Anyway, I'm rambling again. Chris, do you want to take us through the scores of the National League?
Okay, so still too early for any playoffs to be made certain here. The things I wrote down, Zug have been pegged back a little bit. They've had 2 recent losses, so their lead has been cut to 8 points, but they do still have games in hand. Lugano in 4th, they're on a 6-game winning streak. They're ticking along quite nicely. And even SC Bern at the bottom there, they got a win against second place Zurich this week. So they're not going down without a fight. Of course, there is no down this season. The phrase is the phrase. In terms of league position changes from our podcast last week, Lugano and Lausanne have swapped, as have Biel, who have dropped 2 places with their 2 losses. So they've gone down from 6th down to 8th. Davos and Servette have jumped up there. And the victory for Rapperswil as well has seen them climb above Ambri Priota. So just run down the standings. Zug top on 72, Zurich on 64, Genevieve Fribourg on 61, Lugano 53, Lausanne 51, HC Davos on 50, Genevieve Servette 49, BLBN in 48, Rapperswil 39, Ambri Piotr 33, the Langno Tigers 27, and SC Bern at the bottom on 23. But they do still have an awful lot of games in hand. They have 11 games in hand on some teams, which is really quite incredible.
Oh, absolutely. I was just looking as you were reading down those standings. The middle of kind of that first round bye group is going to be so interesting to watch for the rest of the year, because you've got Zug almost in a league of their own at this point. You've got Zurich and Fribourg fighting it out in kind of second and third, but then fourth to seventh, and maybe fourth to eighth if you want to include Biel, because they're pretty much up there, but they don't have any games in hand compared to Geneva Servette or Lausanne. So kind of fourth to eighth or fourth to seventh, there's lots of different teams that, I mean, Davos, for example, was sitting really low in the league standings to start the year because they had so many postponed games and they didn't get off to the best of starts, but they've really gone on a run these last few weeks to jump up into a first round bye position. Then you've got Lausanne and Geneva Servette, which are essentially the dark horses in this competition, because Lausanne's got like 10 games in hand on some teams, but 8 to 10 games in hand on most of the teams. They're only 2 points back from fourth place. They're 10 points back from Fribourg in third. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Lausanne jump up there, maybe compete for the first position, but that's a bit of a climb. That said, they have 6 games in hand on Zug, and they're only 21 points back. So it is possible.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, 6 games in hand, if they win them all, that's 18 points, and they're only 21 points back. So it's not out of the question.
Absolutely, and I think it'll be fun to see. And then similarly with Geneva Servette, they're in the 7th seed at the moment, 49 points in 28 games. They're only 4 points back from 4th place, and they've got 4 games in hand on 4th place, and they've won 3 of their last 5 games. So, if they keep that streak up, they're going to be sitting in a first round bye position. And it's essentially going to be the teams that ended up playing a load of games really early, who didn't necessarily capitalize on some of the wins they should have done. That might end up coming back to bite them, because some of these teams are going on a bit of a hot streak at the moment. So, once again, Swiss National League, a lot of fun, very interesting to see. Let's move on to the German DEL. So let's have a look at what's going on over there, because obviously, like we've mentioned, still quite early on in the season, so nothing decided yet, nothing crazy going on. And most teams have played about a dozen, slightly over a dozen games. So I'll take you through the standings of the North and South Division, and then Chris will get your thoughts. So Bremerhaven in first place in the North Division with 26 points in 13 games, although tied with them in points is Eisbär Berlin, the Berlin Eisbärs, 26 points in 13 games. Got Düsseldorf with 24 points in 14 games, and Eislöwen with 23 points in 14 games. Then outside of the playoffs at the moment, you've got the Wolfsburg Grizzlies, the Cologne Sharks, and the Krefeld Penguins. Krefeld Penguins, they picked up a couple of wins, but they've picked up a couple of losses again, so they're 2-0-12 or 2-12-0, which really isn't good. I feel like they're really fighting an uphill battle now, but what can you do? There's always got to be a loser for certain teams and certain leagues every year. And then in the South Division, you have Adler Mannheim, 30 points in 14 games. You have Ingolstadt with 26 points in 13 games. Red Bull Munich, 27 points. So once again, they obviously doing the thing where the top team in each of the quote-unquote division takes first and second spot, because otherwise Red Bull Munich, I would imagine, would be in second place because they've got one more point, although they have one more game played. Then you have the Schweiniger Wild Wings sitting in 4th place in the South Division, 20 points in 14 games. That said, the Augsburg Panthers, 20 points in 14 games also, so very much a fight going on there. Then you have the Straubing Tigers with 13 points in 13 games, solid 500. And then the Nuremberg Ice Tigers, 8 points in 14 games. So the Nuremberg Ice Tigers lost 5 straight games, got 1 point in their last 5. Straubing, they're already 7 points back from the 5th seed, let alone the 4th seed. And then you've got the Krefeld Penguin that are sitting with 6 points. So it's kind of crazy that if the trends keep going the way that they're going, we might have already found 3 of the teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. Now, it's still very, very early days. 3 points for a win and all that really changes things up. But, I mean, there's some of these teams in this league that have already dug themselves quite a hole and going to need to find a shovel or start using their hands. So, Chris, what do you think?
So it's still really early days. Obviously, as you said, from the delayed season, there's not a great deal to say. Red Bull Munich picked up a couple of wins, Schweiniger got a couple of losses, and Nuremberg just continued to be awful, to be honest, down in the bottom. In the north, now I've got written down that Wolfsburg and Cologne swapped places.
Okay.
That's now reversed back because Wolfsburg beat Bremerhaven last night by 3 goals to 2. So that's now gone back again. So literally, since we covered the DEL last week, nobody's moved. There's just been a couple of games played, but no one's moved.
Okay, so nobody's moved, just added a couple of numbers onto the end of their point standings. Okay.
Essentially, yes.
Fair enough. So once again, similarly to kind of what we were saying about the Finnish Liga, when all of the other leagues are looking at the playoffs, these guys are going to be in the dog days of their regular season. So different stuff to talk about. Yep. Keeps it interesting, keeps the podcast exciting, fun, and great for everyone involved. Let's move on to the Czech Extraliga now. We're really blitzing through these. Well, there is also a couple of leagues that we're not going to be looking at this week, but I'll explain once we get to them, because Chris informed me of some certain news and the goings-on in the European world. So the Czech Extraliga. Chris, do you want to take us through the scores, please?
I can take you through the scores. So everybody from 6th upwards, that's Sparta Prague, Třinec, Boleslav, Liberec, Pilsen and Mountford HK are now guaranteed at least the top 12.
Okay.
But other than that, obviously nothing is assured. Since the last podcast recording, Sparta Prague, Třinec and Liberec have won 3 in 3 to put the pressure on. It does mean that more teams are probably now out of the running for that bye. Bearing in mind that you've got 10 or 11 games, depending on who you are, left in the regular season. Teams such as Karlovy Vary, who have now lost, they lost 3 this week and now lost 4 in a row. They've really lost touch. The only movements, though, are Pilsen, who have dropped 2 places from 3rd down to 5th, behind Boleslav and Liberec. But when you consider now that there is a 11-point gap between Pardubice in 7th and Liberec in that bye spot. I mean, yes, there are still plenty of points to play for, but as I said, you are looking at those teams really struggling now to get out of or to get that bye straight into the quarterfinals.
Do you know what I've noticed about this league that I didn't realise would be a thing that I'd actually really like given the year 2021? Mm-hmm. Look how many games each of the teams have played. It's actually almost even for every single team in the league. Every single team has played 41 games except for Pilsen and Sparta Prague that have played 42. Like, in years gone by, this would have been a normal thing. It wouldn't have been a problem whatsoever. Nobody would have cared. But now, because we're getting so many postponements and stoppages, like, the fact that everybody's pretty much on even footing here is so refreshing. So well done, Czech Extraliga. You must be doing something, right?
You say that, but even in a normal season, we often get like 6-7 game differences in the Elite League over.
Well, yeah, the Elite League, but then again, they have the Challenge Cup, and that is stupid. But that's besides the point. Whereas like with a league like the Czech Extraliga, they know how to organise things. So fair play to the Czechs. They know what they're doing, and I appreciate it. I see all the thought that's gone into making that schedule and keeping things up and running, and I appreciate you. It's really nice to see Sparta Prague and Třinec like competing for that first spot. I feel like that's going to be a competition that goes right till the end of the season, because I mean there's 1 point difference with 1 game in hand, so it really could come down to the final game of the season, and one of the teams lower down the rankings could maybe play upset and kind of stop the team from winning. So that could be a lot of fun as well. And then and because there's a huge drop between Sparta Prague and Třinec to Mlada Boleslav, Liberec and Pilsen, so we're starting to see these really big gaps. Remind me how many games the Czech Extraliga plays, Chris?
It's 52.
52, so they've only got about a dozen games left for the most part.
It's 10 or 11 games left. Yeah,
exactly. So it really is do or die for a lot of these teams now, and Zlin and Cesc Budějović are, still like, there's the possibility for Zlin perhaps, but the way they're playing recently, they're going to need some sort of a miracle. So here's hoping. Now we've got the next league that we want to look at. We're starting to look at some of the more minor leagues. Well, now that we're about to get onto the minor leagues, I may as well mention this week we're not looking at the Polish league, because obviously we mentioned it last week and the week before. And
the Polish league, obviously we know the 8 playoff spots are decided. All we know is that Tichy and Jastrzębie are the top 2. And Toruń are definitely in the top 4, but that's it. Zagreb have now won 3 in a row, but it's too little too late for them, really. So that's it with regards to, obviously, the Polish league. Other league we're not looking at is the Norwegian league.
Yes.
Because their game, their play is still suspended. However, I believe, if I remember correctly, they are supposed to be coming back in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have a look at that again in a couple of weeks' time. But yeah, nothing's happened in the Norwegian league, so it's not worth looking at.
Okay, and Chris let me know about that. So if you are from Norway and you're like, oh, I want to know about the Norwegian league, blame Chris. It's his fault. So let's move on to the Austrian league. So now we're in
Austrian league, yes.
Yes, the winners and losers stage. So I've got flash scores up, and they've got the two different tabs for the winner stage and the loser stage. I've noticed down here it says Bolzano plus 4 points competition rule. I'm hoping you're going to explain that to us, Chris, or you've got some sort of understanding of it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Now I wanted to talk about the Austrian league. Now I want to go into a little bit of depth. So we now know each section. We've got in the winners section Bolzano, Klagenfurt, Ferivar AV19, Vienna Capitals, and Red Bull Salzburg. And we know they're at least going to make the playoffs. We know 3 of the other 6 teams will also make it, apart from the fact that Black Wings are basically out of it.
Yes.
Although, that's what I said last time, and now they're kind of not so much, but we'll come on to that.
I see.
Other thing to say, congratulations to Bolzano, who, by winning the regular season, are the first team to qualify for next year's Champions Hockey League.
Yes, I was going to mention that I've seen an article from the Champions Hockey League talking about some of the qualified teams, and I literally remembered it as we were talking about the Czech Extraliga. So it's like I feel like next week that's something we need to touch on. Maybe have a little chat about some of the teams that have guaranteed a place, or as the weeks go on, kind of keep everyone updated with the Champions Hockey League as well.
Yes. So at the moment, there are only 2 teams. One is Bolzano for winning the Austrian regular season, and the other is Frölunda because they're the defending champions.
Of course.
So there's only 2 teams in it so far. So the other 4 teams in the winners section are now competing for the other spot in the Champions Hockey League. So either by winning the winners section or by coming second if Bolzano win the winners section.
Okay.
Now, because the main finished like this week, I'll just quickly say that Graz and Bratislava swapped in the last week, and that could prove important because it gives Bratislava the advantage in the winners and losers stages. So if we go now and have a look at the winners stage.
Okay, I've got it on the screen.
Get it on the screen. You will see that Bolzano are plus 4 points, Klagenfurt are plus 2 points, and Ferivar AV19 are plus 1 point.
Yes.
Remember how we were talking a couple of weeks ago about they used to wipe the scores and you started again, and we were like, well, that's not really fair.
Yeah.
This is what they've done. So all the scores are white, but Bolzano start on 4 points because they won the main league. Klagenfurt get 2 points because they were second, and Ferivar get 1 point because they were third. And that's the same with the losers stage. So in the losers stage, you've got Dornbirn who get 8 points to start because they came 6th. Bratislava gets 6 because they came 7th. And Graz 99ers became 8th and they get 4th. So that's what I was saying about Black Wings Links, is the fact that even though they finished 26 points behind Dornbirn in the regular season, all of a sudden they're now only 8 points behind them to start this mini section.
See, I feel like that's great for a team like Black Wings Linz, but that's terrible for every single other team in the league. Like, this is such an interesting concept, but like, this is why
I wanted to have this discussion with you, because like, if you take Red Bull, just looking at the winners section, if you take Red Bull Salzburg, who finished the regular season 11 points behind Klagenfurt in second, because of the way it's been redone, they're now only like 1 win behind them rather than like nearly 4 games behind them.
I feel like instead of doing it like 4 points for the top team in the winner stage, it should be based on, I don't know, the difference between like... I feel like the same point differential should be kept, or like something
I had
similar.
A look at it to see if that's what it was, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's just a case of like, so what you're telling me is, so let's take Klagenfurt, for example, because Bolzano's obviously guaranteed their place in the Champions Hockey League. They've guaranteed their place as one of the top teams in the league. So they're kind of a different subject, although domestically that doesn't really mean much. But Klagenfurt, let's take Klagenfurt. So they, how many points did they finish with at the end of the season?
79.
And how many points was that above Ferivar AV19?
4 points.
Okay, so that's not a huge difference. So you can understand the difference being 1 point, but still, Klagenfurt had played really well for the majority of the season, managed to secure themselves second place in the entire Austrian league as the second best team.
In the last week of the season, we should say.
In the last week of the season, yep. So they managed to guarantee that spot before the winner stage, and now they have less than a game in hand on every single other team in the below them in the winner stage. That just doesn't line up to me.
Like when they're, like I say, when you compare it to Red Bull Salzburg, there's an 11-point gap. I mean,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
The same thing where you consider, if you look at Dornbirn, so they get 8 points. They finish, so they are 2 games ahead of Innsbruck, essentially.
Okay.
But they were 3 and a bit games. I mean, it's the one to Blackwinds and Villach that really kind of get you, because they were 26 points ahead of Blackwinds. There were 9 games ahead of them.
Yeah.
And now they're less than 3 games ahead of them.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's like with the winner stage as well. Bolzano, they dominated the regular season. They're 2 points up. They're literally a win and an overtime loss higher than Red Bull Salzburg and Vienna. Yet they were the best team in the league, secured themselves a place.
14 points clear.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like, I get what they're trying to do here in the sense of, we need to have this winners and losers stage, which once again, I still don't quite understand, but maybe that's just me. But we need to have this winners and losers stage. Instead of wiping the slate completely clean and making it unfair for the teams that, did really well and kind of wiping their record and making it an even playing field when it shouldn't be, and making the rest of the season kind of a moot point. At the same time, so the loser stage, Dornbirn are 2 points above Bratislava. That's not even a regulation win in the Austrian league.
It's an overtime win.
I feel like they've got to make a bigger gap between it. I don't know.
There's nothing. So obviously Blackwinds struggled in the season, right?
Yes.
They finished the regular season winning 3 games in a row. They beat Red Bull Salzburg 4-2. They beat Innsbruck 4-2. And they beat Bolzano 3-2 in the last game of the season.
Wow, okay.
They're going into this on a great run of form. They've finished the season so far adrift of... They finished the regular season, 17 points behind what the playoff places would be.
Right.
And yet, because they've hit this at a good run of form, they string more results together against other teams that aren't as good as the teams they've just beat. And they could all of a sudden find themselves in the playoffs, having been nowhere near it all season.
See, the only kind of comparison I can give is, remember when the St. Louis Blues went on their miracle run to the playoffs and then won the Stanley Cup in 2019? The difference was they didn't wipe all the scores. They managed to do that because they fired their coach, brought a new coach in, Craig Berube came in, and they managed to, Jordan Binnington joined the team, and it's kind of like within the room they managed to find that form that they could have had all season. This is the same thing, except you're giving the teams that in the loser stage, especially the teams like Blackwinds, you're giving them an unfair advantage because
they've had.
But just imagine, just before you say, Chris, just imagine you're Bratislava, right? Imagine you're Bratislava. You finish 7th, 6 points in this new division, but like you mentioned, Blackwings Linz is on a run, right? They've beaten some of the top teams, if not the best teams in the league in the last couple of games.
And they've got to play them twice.
And they've got to play them twice. I would be furious if I was part of the Bratislava Capitals if I finished the season lower than Blackwings Linz, just because they're 2 regulation wins above them in the standings. How many games do these groups have to play, by the way?
So they play each other home and away twice. So the losers stage, they will play 10 games, and the winners stage, they will play 8.
Okay.
So there's a potential 30 points on offer in the losers stage.
Right.
But what I was going to say is that Blackwinds finished the regular season 17 points away from the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now they're 4 points away from the playoffs. They've had their deficit cut by 4-fold.
Yeah, exactly. And take a team like Dornbirn, who was actually pretty close to reaching the winner stage by the end of the season. They were kind of hovering there a little bit. Or Graz, that, were sitting up in the winner stage at one point, obviously had some issues with their goaltending injuries and everything, and then weren't getting the results that they wanted, so they obviously fell. I get what they're trying to do here, but I also kind of don't understand why they're doing it. Just maybe it's just the hockey purist in me. Just keep the regular, just play the whole season and take the winners at the end of that. I don't
Yeah, I can see to a point what they're trying to do. So obviously they've played everybody home and away 10 times.
Yeah.
Sorry, 4 times each to get a 40-game regular season. And now they're wanting to see, right, out of those 5 best teams, who's the best of the best to get the first seed? And out of the 6 worst teams, who's the best of those worst teams to make the playoffs? That's what they're trying to achieve, but I'm not sure about the points, because as you said, you've got...
Yeah, but then again, it's kind of going off that idea, isn't that what the playoffs are for? For the best of the best to go up against each other to see who wins?
It kind of just denotes but even like in the top 5 in the winners stage, it's not like they're all guaranteed home advantage, because whoever comes bottom of that doesn't get home advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, at the same time, it's like, so you're having like a pre-playoffs. Imagine your team does really well in the winners stage, but then you get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Well,
I think that's kind of what... Yeah, I think that's kind of what... imagine right for now that Bolzano just completely collapse and they end up with the 5th seed, and then they don't get home advantage after winning the regular season and they go out in the first round. They could go out in the first round to the 8th seed, but I can see what Austria are trying to do. And the one thing that I think they've done well is it because you can fall into the trap of, these first 40 games are kind of meaningless then.
Yeah,
it's all based on this.
Under that concept, the first 40 games were worth 4 points in the winners stage and 8 points in the losers stage. But
also, don't forget that those first 40 games, everyone was battling for the Champions Hockey League spot.
True.
That's the prize for winning
but at the same time,
the Champions Hockey League
But at
spot.
the same time, why do we need the winners and losers stage? Just do, once the regular season ends, the winner of the regular season gets the place in the Champions Hockey League, like every single other league in the world does it. I can see that. I'm not sure whether it's they're trying to do something specifically different or it works the best for them. Obviously, we're not experts on the Austrian league, so I don't want to claim that like I'm an expert and I don't have any like solution in terms of making this situation better. My solution would be just make it like everybody else. It makes more sense that way. Like I feel like there's a reason all the other leagues around the world have been doing this, because correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, this isn't like a specific thing for this year, is it? Like the winners and the loser stage is a common thing.
They always do this.
Yeah, go for it.
I kind of like the concept because, like I say, they do a similar thing in Scottish football. I'm just not sure about the points, because I would feel, maybe it's just because they've done it so long. That's, they kind of don't feel like it. But I would feel if I was Bolzano and I was 14 points clear of Salzburg to then all of a sudden only be 4 points clear of them, I'd be a little bit peed off, really.
Yeah, and then if you're the Black Wings Lings, it's kind of like, like halfway through the regular season, yeah, we're not going to get one of the top spots. Let's just blow it up, shut it down, and we'll just try again in the loser stage,
What I'll do is I will make a note of these regular season standings.
Okay.
And then I will make a note at the end of the winners and losers stages, because they start on Friday as this podcast goes out, and I will see what the changes are. Okay.
Yeah, good idea.
Has someone like Villac jumped 5 places or something like that?
Yeah, that's a fair, yeah.
The other thing I'll do is I'll look at what the final tables are at the end of the winners and losers stage, and I'll plug those numbers into the regular season and see what happens.
That would be a really good way to figure this out. See if there is actually any huge difference, or if it's just more of the same. And if it's more of the same, then like why change? Like why go to this winners losers stage in the first place?
Because like if Black Wings were to win every single one of their, Black Wings, if you're going to plug it back into the regular season, have got to win at least 8 out of the 10, at least 17, at least 6 out of those 10 games, Black Wings have got to win to even have a chance of getting up to 8 based on the regular season.
Oh my God.
Austria, 6 out of 10.
Austria, what are we doing, guys?
If you're listening to us and you know a lot more about the Austrian league, then please do let us know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It seems slightly baffling to us, really.
Yeah, I feel like whether it's because like I come from like the NHL is the league that I followed the most, then obviously like looking at the KHL and the SHL and the Finnish Liga, all of them just do, right, once the season ends, the top teams go to the playoffs. Like, I feel like taking the winners and the losers away from each other, it takes away obviously the chance for like a Black Wings Linz to keep beating a team like Bolzano and playing upset in that regard. Yeah, it's kind of more isolated to the winners and losers because Linz could still be an upset to Bratislava or Dornbirn, for example. But at the same time, I feel like if you want to be like crowned as the best team in the regular season, the entire season that you play, you should be playing every single other team in the league. And yeah, they did for the most part, but then what's the point in this? Surely that because if they were doing this instead of the playoffs, then okay, there's some kind of idea that could be had there. And if they were doing this because it was, the unprecedented situation of the current global pandemic, then yeah, I'd understand. Because it might be a case of, oh, okay, we're going to keep all the teams in close geographical location together, similar to what the DEL are doing. However, that's not the case by the looks of it. They do this every single year, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, for Black Wings Linz, it's great, and for teams like Bolzano and Klagenfurt, it kind of sucks. It kind of makes you think, yeah, the Champions Hockey League place is up for grabs, but say these teams don't really care about the Champions Hockey League. Just for example, say they don't care about it. What's the point in winning the regular season then?
Well, yeah.
Essentially, essentially, you just need to get fifth. Essentially, you just need to get the fifth seed. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Like if you get in the fifth seed, you can then do well in the winners stage, get up to second, and get another Champions Hockey League spot.
Exactly. So you could have a Champions Hockey League spot by playing well enough to get the fifth seed and then going on a tear for the end of the season. Like, the tear for the end of the season to win you something should be the playoffs. That's the whole point of it. But anyway.
I told you this would be a good discussion topic, didn't I?
Yeah, I don't get it. But let's quickly go through the last two, and then we've got a couple of other things we need to discuss. So I'll quickly take you through the final two leagues. Chris can then add in the final points. So we've got the Danish Meta League, which I believe is still playing. Is that right, Chris?
So the top 6 have made the playoffs.
Yes.
The shock result in the week was Odense beating the top side Rungsted.
Oh.
But Odense can only get to 50 points. It's a 48-game season, so they're getting close to the end of theirs as well. So they can only get to 50 points. So Herlev are on 47.5, only need one win to get their spot as well. Odense, though, they're 10 points away from Rødve with 7 games to go. So there's 21 points on offer. Now, it does sound a lot, but Rødve have lost their last 3 in a row. So Odense might be a little bit looking forward to that. If you look at the form guide in the last 5 games, Rødve have picked up 3 points. Odense have picked up 8. So they are making inroads, and there is a game between those bottom 2. So if Odense could win that and cut it down to 7 points and keep on this form towards the end of the season, that could go down to the wire as well. What a story that could be. Other than that, there's been no movements at all in the table since last week.
Okay, so just to remind you, the teams that have currently guaranteed a spot in the playoffs are Rungsted, Esbjerg Energy, the Aalborg Pirates, Herning Blue Fox, Sonders Jijk, and Frederikshavn. So those are the teams. Then obviously it's a race between Herlev, the Mighty Bulls, and Odense to see who gets the final 2 places. Although Herlev, like Chris mentioned, is pretty much guaranteed. And yeah, let's go through the French League Magnus, because they're actually playing games now, which is good. So let's talk about it.
They are.
So I will take you through the standings here, and then Chris will give you the final points on that. So Rouen, 12 games played, some of the least amount of games played in the league, yet they already have an 8-point lead on second place Nice, 26 points in 16 games. Bordeaux, 23 points in 16 games. So then you have Angers, Gap, Mulhouse, Grenoble, and Angers taking the playoff spots as it stands right now. But like we said, still very early on in the season, still plenty to play for. Then you've got Amiens, Chaumont-Mont-Blanc, Cergy-Pontoise, and Briançon taking the play-out spots, although I doubt there's going to be a play-out this year because of the current situation. Haven't got a guarantee on that. But when you consider that Amiens and Mont Blanc are only 1 point away from the 8th seed, 1 point away from the 7th seed, Briançon, yeah, they haven't had the best of starts. They have actually played 13 games as well, so really not a good start to the season for them. Cergy-Pontoise still very much in the race. They've got points in 3 of their last 5 games, so there's not really any use in us making big aspersions on what we think the season's going to end up like at this point in time, because there's still just far too much to play for, isn't there, Chris?
Yeah, so we spoke in length about the French League dropping to 22 games.
Yep.
I just checked again. I checked yesterday. I've just checked again. They still haven't decided what they're going to do about those 5 games. I can't see an article on the website about it. But the longer it goes on, the worse it's getting for Nice. I must be honest.
Oh yeah.
They've lost their last 2 games. The fact that they've lost their last 2 games and the other teams won means that Nice now drop from 2nd to 6th if the games get struck off.
Oh wow.
So it's getting even worse for Nice now. Some played, some didn't this week. The only movement is Bordeaux climbing 2 places to 3rd by beating Nice.
I see. So when I say that we've still got plenty to play for, some of the teams actually only have half a dozen games left to play. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I didn't quite remember that. So, there's going to be some fun going on there for Nice. I would not be happy if I were them. I feel like if they leave this decision until the end of the season, like until after all the games are played, that's going to cause some real problems. If they then decide like, so Nice are like, brilliant, we're in second place in the league by the end of the season. Then it's like, no, actually we're taking X amount of points away from you. You're now actually like in 9th place in the league. Like it could be kind of one of those situations where it's like, that could be the difference between them making the playoffs, in a couple of weeks' time. So, which would not be ideal. But, it is what it is. So that was a look at all of the different European leagues, or the ones that we really needed to focus on. Before we carry on, I just want to remind you that this episode of the Europuck podcast is also brought to you by Crosscheck Clothing. Crosscheck Clothing is a UK-based hockey apparel brand that provides high-quality clothing to help you rep the greatest sport on earth in style. You've heard me talk about Crosscheck Clothing for the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to tell you about it again because why not? Now, we all know that wearing your favourite team's jersey when you're at the game can be great fun. It's always good fun to rep your team. I've got 15, 16 jerseys here, so I know how that feels. But it isn't very practical for day-to-day life and going about your business. Well, with Crosscheck's wide variety of hockey-themed t-shirts and hoodies, whether you're at the rink, going about your day-to-day life, or chilling at home, you can show off your love for the sport, look great, and feel good all at the same time. I've personally bought half a dozen items from Crosscheck, as I've mentioned in weeks prior. You've seen me wear a couple of them on these episodes, and like I've mentioned, I'm really glad that we've had the chance for them to come and sponsor our show, so we can talk about how much I love Crosscheck Clothing. I like their clothes, whether it be their Team Great Britain stuff, or their Liam Kirk collection that I managed to nab a white shirt of, or their more subtle styles. Love all of them. Really great. Whenever I see that, whenever they've gone through the laundry, I'm super happy to wear them again. So, why not? Check them out as well. So, Crosscheck have got you covered on every single kind of designs as well. If you want, the real, home is where the heart is, where it's a hockey rink on it, or, something that's just kind of like their little logo on a patch. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. But listeners of our show can now get 15% off any order over £30 by using code EPP15. This is an exclusive offer that you won't find anywhere else, ladies and gentlemen, so make sure you take a look at their collection and you let them know that we sent you via their Twitter, Instagram, Facebook pages, all of their social media. Let them know that the Europuck podcast sent you to look at their stuff. They also ship across Europe and North America, so whichever side of the pond you're on, you too can get in on the action also. So to get 15% off any order over £30, head on over to shop.crosscheckclothing.co.uk and use promo code EPP15. That's shop.crosscheckclothing.co.uk and use promo code EPP15 for 15% off your order over 15% off your order over £30, I should say, not 50, £30. So, 20 quid cheaper, still save some money as well. But a big thank you to Crosscheck Clothing for sponsoring this episode. Chris, let's go through the quiz. Take me through it.
The quiz, right, yep. So as usual, let us know in the comments how you get on. I know we've got a couple of people that play along each week. Question 1, you should get this one because you've mentioned it already in this episode.
Okay.
So we've seen this week a father and son duo on the same team.
Yep.
When was the only time it happened in the NHL?
So it was when Gordie Howe was playing for the Hartford Whalers. He had joined the NHL with the Hartford Whalers from the WHA because he'd obviously had his lengthy career with the Detroit Red Wings before, retired, left the league, had his jersey number retired, and then he obviously took a year or two out of the game, but decided, I need to come back. And he then suited up with his children, his 2 sons. Mark was the name of one of them. And I'm trying to remember the name of the other one off the top of my head, because Mark was the one that went on to have the lengthy career in the NHL, but the other son didn't have as long of a career in the NHL. I think he only played 300 games or something. So I can't quite remember the other son's name. And I believe it took place, I might be wrong about this, but I believe it took place in 1981, I want to say. The 80-81 season.
I'll give you, that's pretty close. I will give you it.
Okay.
So, yes, it was Gordie Howe. He played with his sons, Mark and Marty.
Marty, that's it.
For a season at the Hartford Whalers. It was the 79-80 season.
Oh, close.
So you're only 1 year out. I'll give you that one.
Okay,
so, yeah,
fair
I think
enough.
I've got to give you quite a few points for that, for the history lesson at the same time.
I mean, I made a video on it on my channel, and I made it half a year ago.
True, yeah.
I made it half a year ago, and I can only barely remember some of the information. It shows how quickly it goes in and out of my head. Carry on.
Okay, so question 2, this is another parent-related question.
Okay.
So, I'll preface this by saying this was written in 2013, so it's a bit old.
Okay.
But, yeah. according to ESPN, how many dollars, this is American dollars, does it cost to put your child through a decade of youth hockey?
Oh, wow. That is going to be very expensive.
We're talking like, obviously, they're going to grow out of equipment. They're going to skates sharpening, registration fees, club stuff, all that sort of stuff. So a decade of youth hockey.
A decade of youth
expensive.
Hockey. A decade of youth hockey. So we're just talking like casual. We're not talking like competitive youth hockey. Just kind of like, like kids playing at the rink,
Well, we're talking like being part of a team and having to like do registration fees, that sort of thing, and then
See, like my initial guess. This isn't my guess, but my initial thought, I wanted to go like super high because I know like this can be really expensive. So my initial thought was going to be like $1 million, but then again, most families wouldn't be able to afford that.
Not for a decade. No.
Yeah, not for a decade. So I'm thinking I'm going to go with $250,000.
No, it's still not that. It's $50,000.
Okay.
Well, $48,850, and that's including like I can't remember all the figures, but it was something like $5 a week to have the skate sharpened and that sort of thing.
Could you figure out how much that is in inflation in today's money? That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah,
whether that's changed specifically or a huge amount. So how much was $50,000 worth in 2013 to now in 2021?
Yeah, I'll do my best to figure that sort of thing out.
Yeah, go for it.
Right, okay, well, while I'm doing that, you can have a look at the next question.
Okay.
So, today, as we're recording this, is National Toothache Day.
National Toothache Day.
Why?
For context, I don't think I mentioned it at the beginning of the episode. It's February the 9th, by the way, Tuesday, February 9th.
Yes.
Sorry,
9th.
Chris, carry on.
No, it's all right. So I was trying to find some question along the lines of, how many teeth are lost in the NHL each year and things like that. couldn't find that number. So instead, from when I was doing my reading, the most number of teeth lost in one go belongs to Keith Yandel after he was hitting the puck in 2019. How many did he lose in one go? I will help you out. An adult mouth should have 32 teeth.
Okay, an adult mouth should have 32 teeth.
Including the wisdom teeth.
I feel like I want to say something like 12 to 15. It's got to be something like that, right?
Is that your answer?
I'm gonna. Do you want me to give a specific number, or is 12 to 15 okay?
Yeah, go. 12 to 15 is fine. It's wrong anyway. It's
okay.
Well, some articles said it as 7, and a couple have said it as 9. So 7 or 9 in one go.
Okay, so I was noticeably off, considering there's only 32 teeth in the average adult's mouth. So, but could you imagine losing a dozen teeth from like a puck hitting your face? I've noticed.
I don't.
No, go for it.
See, I don't play ice hockey. If I did, I think I would always just wear a cage. I value my teeth too much.
Well, no, like I've noticed the Rangers forward Phil Di Giuseppe. He's been wearing like a fish bowl, where it's like he has like the thing over the chin, and then it covers the entire face as well. I don't think he's been wearing it because of an injury. Like he's been wearing it all season, as far as I'm aware, and I feel like that's a pretty good way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, there must be some, kind of vision thing or steaming. I think I'd wear a cage rather than a bucket helmet with a full visor down, because I think when you're breathing out, you probably fog up on the inside of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'd probably do a cage rather than a.
Yeah.
Just jumping back, the $48,500 is now $54,500.
Okay, so not a huge difference, but I mean $50,000. Like you can see why a lot of hockey families or a lot of parents with kids that are interested in hockey kind of feel priced out by the sport.
So you're talking $5,000 a year.
Yeah, which is pretty pricey when it comes down to it. Not every single household, especially from kind of areas where they're living paycheck to paycheck, don't have the opportunity to be able to fork out $5,000.
Even if you break it down further, it's £400 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't have enough people don't have that kind of money, especially in kind of today's economy, like with the current situation. So anyway.
Yeah. So the day this is broadcast, Friday the 12th, is Chinese New Year.
Ah, of course.
So happy Chinese, but I had to kind of obviously bring it back to Europe as best I could.
Indeed.
So, how many European sides, this is countries, are lower than China in the IIHF men's world rankings. So I'm going to give you a point for the number and a point for each country you can name and another point if you can guess where China rank.
Okay, so I'm going to get 0 points on this. Can you at least give me a clue of how many teams have been ranked by the IIHF? I feel like that's fair.
So there have been 54 teams ranked by the IIHF.
Okay.
And I'll obviously also help you out that this includes nations such as the Philippines, Kyrgyzstan, and Kuwait.
Okay. So where does China rank? So that there was 52, did you say 54?
54.
54. So there's been 54 different nations ranked.
You've got just about a 2% chance of getting this right, but I think you can probably rule out like the top 10.
Yeah, I'm going to say China is ranked... Oh. China is ranked 32nd. No, they wouldn't be 32nd because otherwise you wouldn't have made me name every single one of the countries underneath it.
No, only the European countries.
Oh, only the European countries. Okay, so I'm going to go China because I'm trying to think of like the like Division 1A, Division 1B, like where China sat in those lists as well.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, because obviously GB's come up through that system and I don't remember them playing China at any point in those tournaments. Like they played Japan. Japan's quite high up there, but China isn't. So I'm gonna go 32nd out of 54, and the nations underneath them, the Netherlands. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. Oh, I don't know. Because I want to say like places like Estonia, but then again, Estonia is usually up there in some of the higher world championship rankings.
I've stumped him.
You have. And it's also like, I don't want to sit here spending too long thinking about it because, we've got a podcast to record.
You know what? I will give you a point. China are 32nd.
Are they actually?
They are actually 32nd.
Whoa! I was not expecting to get that right, but I feel like my logic was pretty sound on that one. It's kind of like, well,
it was fairly close, yeah.
Well, because
so you can have a guess. So have a guess at the number of European countries underneath it. Then
I'm going to say 4.
Okay, no, it's 7.
Okay. So
you've got 1 point out of 2 so far. So I want 7 European countries that you think are below China.
Oh my god!
I'm going to allow you to get a list of European countries if that's going to help.
No. I can't succumb to that. I need to do this legit. I failed this way. I need to keep failing legitimately.
If it's any consolation, I would probably get 1.
Exactly. So the Netherlands, is that one on the list?
No.
Damn it.
28.
Scotland doesn't count. The Republic of Ireland, is that on there?
No, they're not ranked.
Why Ireland? Come on, hockey's great. You could play the Giants. It'd be fun. It'd be a great derby. Is Estonia on that list?
It's not on the list. No. They rank 27.
Yeah,
you're getting near it. You're around China. Estonia 27, Netherlands 28.
Oh, jeez. Slovenia. No, Slovenia's ranked higher, isn't it?
Slovenia are 20th. Below Great Britain. Take that, Slovenia.
Whey! Suck on that, Slovenia. I have no idea. Put me out of my misery, Chris.
Okay. Right. In 33rd is Iceland.
Okay.
In 36th, Belgium.
Okay, fair enough, yeah.
In 38th, I would never have got this, Georgia.
Yeah, I never would have got that either.
In 42nd, Turkey.
Okay.
Makes
sense.
43rd, Luxembourg.
Okay.
And the one I would have got is 49th, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Of course, yeah. So basically...
Only because I keep seeing their flag when we talk about the World Championship.
So basically it was just name all of the obscure countries that you only ever hear during...
Bulgaria.
No,
Bulgaria,
all the obscure countries you hear during Eurovision every year, but other than that, you never hear ever, ever. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right.
So final question.
Okay.
And this is, again, similarly to last time, it's kind of a bit more of a lighter, funner question.
Okay.
So... Today, and again, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this in the comments section.
Indeed.
Today is National Pizza Day.
Oh, I love pizza.
Age-old question, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely. Anybody that says pineapple doesn't belong on pizza, I respect your opinion, but you're wrong.
Yeah, you get a point for that as well, because that's my view as well.
Absolutely.
So does pineapple belong on pizza? Let us know.
Absolutely. I feel like, obviously, Hawaiian pizza is a classic. It's beautiful. Mwah.
Yeah.
Love a Hawaiian pizza. But like any other... I mean, most other pizzas you wouldn't have pineapple on, so I feel like it's just like Hawaiian is kind of the
Here's
go-to.
another question then.
Okay.
And this is for the viewers and the listeners rather than for you.
Okay.
You see kind of in the news and stuff, and you can find articles about different like variations of like McDonald's and stuff around the world.
Yeah.
That we don't get here in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening in, particularly if you're not in the UK, do you have like different pizza types that we would perhaps not think of? Do you have like a different sort, different pizza toppings that we wouldn't think of? Let us know in the comments.
That's really interesting, because I feel like ours is very much like Hawaiian, like, and also like a lot of North American influence, because obviously we have like the Pizza Huts and, like the Domino's and stuff. There's kind of like that American style pizza. Like pepperoni is a very like North American style of pizza. But you mentioned like the McDonald's, like, we had the double Big Macs here for a while. Like they have them in Canada all year round. And like, I was so happy when we found out we were getting double Big Macs here. I was like, I had to have one, because like I barely ever get McDonald's like most of the year anyway. I'm more of a like, just like get something like from the supermarket and eat it, because otherwise what's the point? Like takeouts is something that I've never really like, you have it every once in a while, but it's like, it's a treat, like if you have it too often, then it kind of loses its kind of the magic around it. But double Big Macs, solid. I love them. They're the best food to eat after you've been on like a 7-hour flight, just for the record. If any, not that anybody's going on them anytime soon, but just for future reference. So that's the quiz done. So we've got one more.
That's the quiz.
One more topic to talk about that I feel like we're going to go into a little bit of detail. So I've got 2 articles that I want to mention regarding this. And basically, to sum up the news before we go into the detail, the UK and England specifically, I believe, we're actually getting hockey this year, but not in the way that we were expecting. So,
no.
So for those of you who don't know, the NIHL, the National Ice Hockey League here in the UK, or England, the UK, whichever you
second tier,
is basically the second tier. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's basically the second tier of hockey here. It's kind of semi-pro. I feel like is the best way to put it. Is that a fair like assessment of it?
It's to a point. Yeah, there are some pro players. It's a mix of like talented youngsters and players who are kind of mid-30s and reaching the end of their career and perhaps aren't at like the elite league level anymore, but still want to skate around. And so it's kind of there are wages in that league, but they're not can live entirely off that.
Yeah, exactly.
So semi-pro is probably the right right thing around it. But we're getting more hockey after the elite league. Well, according to a couple of the owners, was shafted. By the government.
Don't worry, Chris. I'm going to go into that. Got myself a nice little article here that we'll discuss as well. So, basically, the NIHL is a semi-pro league, second tier here, which is a lot different, I would imagine, to a lot of the other second-tier leagues around Europe. It's not necessarily like a Mestis league, although I don't know how that league is specifically set up. You've got, like prospects for EIHL teams that are getting playing time down there, aging veterans and kind of guys that it's like a part-time thing for them, or a thing they're good enough to do to get paid a decent chunk of change to do it, but they're not either good enough to be able to make it to the bigs, or they've got other stuff going on in their lives, so they can't fully commit to it. So anyway, this is an article from the Elite Ice Hockey, or the English Ice Hockey Association, I should say. And it reads, NIHL National Division begins phased return to play this month. Weekly testing of players included. The EIHA and the NIHL are pleased to announce a phased return to start playing this month with teams in the National Division. Discussions continue with clubs in NIHL 1 North and South around a possible return to play. Around a possible return to play in those divisions, and an update will be given in due course. Throughout the return to play discussions with stakeholders, we are grateful for the support and cooperation of Ice Hockey UK and the Elite League, And though the EIHL have confirmed they will not be playing in 2021, they will remain part of an ongoing and continuing dialogue about bringing the whole sport back from the COVID shutdown. The first NIHL competition returning to play will be in the NIHL National. The owners have released a following statement, so I'll just run you through the details, because it's well, okay, this is the rest of it. So they've been working with the NIHL National Owner has been working with the English Ice Hockey Association for the past few months to try and figure stuff out. Phase 1 of the return to play program, or process, will see 5 teams taking part in a Spring Cup during February and March. There'll be the competition will see 2 of the streaming series teams, Sheffield and Swindon, joined by the Bracknell Bees, the Raiders and the Telford Tigers. So 5 teams playing each other home and away over 7 weekends, each team playing each other 3 times for a total of 12 games each. All games will be played behind closed doors with streaming where facilities are available. That makes me think that some of the places do not have streaming available, so not all the games are going to be streamed. Points to be allocated using the usual league rules, and with the top placed teams at the end of the series awarded the cup. If fixtures cannot be played as scheduled, the teams in conjunction will determine the appropriate award or rescheduling of the game. And then phase 2 of the process will give all 10 teams of the NIHL National Division the chance to participate in a league during April and May. That's pretty interesting. So they're kind of doing this... the Spring Cup to kind of see if it could work, kind of a trial run, and then if it works and everything goes off well and is successful and they potentially make a bit of money from it, then we have all 10 teams from the NIHL National, which I would imagine includes that doesn't include the Nottingham Lions, does it?
No, because they're in National 1, which is why I'm very much looking forward and waiting for this announcement about NIHL, 1 North and South.
Yes.
I mean, I think what they're potentially looking at is the fact that if the National League can make this work with 6 teams, because there are only 6 teams in the Lions League at the moment, then obviously it's feasible for the Lions. But yeah, if I can go back and do some live stream, I think I might cry if it comes back and says that the Lions are going to be like, yeah, we're going to do what we can.
Finally, I get to watch them lose 12-0 again. I also want to mention that just before I get your thoughts again, Chris, that obviously the league and the NIHL are being focusing heavily on safety. Obviously, there's national lockdowns and everything going on, so at all times, teams will comply with government regulations and return to play rules from the EIHA. To increase our insight and warning of any potential COVID infections, all teams will also be running weekly COVID testing for all players with a clear communication plan in the event of positive test results. So that's going to cost a decent chunk of change to be able to do something like that. So I'm going to move on to this next article, Chris, so I give everybody all of the stats, and then I want to hear all of your thoughts on this, because I know you're a lot closer connected to a lot of this stuff than I am. So the EIHA move to confirm money injection claims. The English Ice Hockey Association have clarified funding arrangements following claims they've been allocated the £4 million originally given to the Elite League. It comes after interviews with the chairman, Tony Smith, who owns the Sheffield Steelers, and Nottingham Panthers owner Neil Black, following the news the top flight wouldn't be receiving the government money, where they suggested the cash had been funneled to the EIHA and NIHL instead. They had spoken of their surprise that they wouldn't be receiving the funding, but that EIHA would be, allowing them to implement their phased return, which is due to start later this month. Smith believed the government was playing fast and loose with the term elite, perhaps in confusion over Elite League and Elite Sports, which is where the money's been going to, while Black was more direct in his criticism, accusing DCMS of ignoring professional sports people in favour of what he called amateurs. That's a pretty bold claim there, Neil Black. It was there in black and white that the Elite League was destined for that money, but I've been told it's been slightly diluted from the Elite League to Elite Sports, and there's been a variation of what constitutes Elite Ice Hockey now. So I'm just trying to find where it actually says. Okay, here we go. But a spokesperson for the EIHA insists this isn't the case at all, stating they were involved in their own negotiation with the Department of Culture, Media and Sport and Sport England. They said the EIHL was allocated $4 million in the initial round of funding published by the DCMS, and as indicated at the time, this was an indicative amount that would be confirmed through an application process to follow. The EIHA was, throughout the same period as the EIHL, working with the DCMS to provide information on the impact of spectator restrictions and was supporting the EIHL in ensuring their application was made. Confirmation was received in December that a further $1.2 million of funding million pounds, I should say, sorry, of funding was to be made available to the NIHL. This would take the total funding to ice hockey as a sport to £5.2 million. We also share the frustrations of the EIHL and their support for GB athletes and, conditioning prior to the World Championship. So essentially, the EIHA, the EIHA have come out and said, no, we haven't got that £4 million. We actually made our own application because we realised they were making an extra £1.2 million available, and we're getting that, or a portion of that. So, Chris, the news that the National Division is beginning a Spring Cup and then potentially a 10-team league later on this year, and the fact that the Elite Ice Hockey League feel like they've been shafted and might have gotten their claims a little bit wrong. What do you think?
Does it say in that article if that 1.2 is a grant or a loan?
I will have a look. I would
have a brief look while I'm talking. So, as I say, I love the fact that there is ice hockey coming back. I can understand why the Elite League owners said what they said, and obviously the EIHA has come out and clarified that. Now, I am aware that the communication in British ice hockey could be improved, let's put it that way.
That's putting it very nicely, Chris.
Well, I'm trying to be diplomatic.
Of course.
So, it is not... I can fully believe that one party was not aware that there was another sum of money that has been made available, which is why they made the comments that they did. The other thing to remember with the National League is that you are talking about player wages being a couple of £100, not a couple of £1,000 for the games. I know from like the National League and the cover I've done, I think you've got some players that get like 50 quid for a game.
Yeah.
Which is an awful lot different to the Elite League. So in the NIHL, the 1.2 million will go an awful lot further.
Yes.
Which is obviously why they can afford to do all this testing and what have you. Also, even things like the officials, like the referee, I think gets something like 250 quid for the game. So, it can go an awful lot further. So I can kind of understand that side of it. So yes, games are going to be streamed. You can buy your tickets now because it's starting this weekend.
Indeed.
Obviously this goes out on the Friday, so it's starting this weekend. I think they're doing different prices depending on the teams. I believe that Swindon or Telford, they're doing 10, but Sheffield Steel Dogs is 12 for a game. But I think all the clubs are looking at packages.
What's that, Chris? A Sheffield team racking up the price of a webcast? Say it ain't so, Chris.
To be fair, Sheffield announced theirs first, as far as I saw.
Fair enough.
So,
and also like,
fair,
and also at the same time, like £12 for a webcast isn't the worst. I just want to also interject. It just says that it's £1.2 million of funding. It doesn't say whether it's a grant or a loan. So
okay. I mean, considering that it's for kind of semi-pro amateur a league, it kind of maybe is more a grant because the government in this health and well-being thing is kind of all on, people getting out and exercising. But
I would imagine
I don't know that.
Perhaps it's a case of a portion of it is a grant, a portion of it's a loan. Like there might be some kind of fine print there.
There might be, maybe the NIHL are hoping that the money they get from the streaming is going to help towards paying it back. I don't know. That's just a thought that's I'm thinking out loud there. So I can see that obviously the Elite League, I can understand why they didn't do anything. Once it became clear that it was a loan and not a grant, which from listening to the two interviews, they weren't aware of that right from the start, even though DCMS say, yes, we made it clear, but you're going to hear both sides, and you're going to come down without really knowing the true answer, aren't you?
Yeah, it's a he said, she said at the end of the day. Like, the government's going to claim one thing, the league's going to claim the other, and I would imagine most fans are going to come down on the side of the teams because, they're the ones that provide the product, and, it's kind of like, oh, well, the government are always trying to shaft people, and they might have been in this scenario, but I don't think we'll ever know for sure, so... It's difficult to be able to tell, but I also did want to mention that Liam Kirk, the prized British prospect, former 7th round pick by the Arizona Coyotes, he's going to be returning for the games to play for the Sheffield Steel Dogs. I don't have an article up here explaining it, but I did see that earlier today. So Liam Kirk will be...
Yes, he returned from Sweden to the UK.
Let me get his stats up on the screen while you talk.
Yeah, he returned from Sweden and came back to the UK, and then the UK went into lockdown, so he kind of got stuck in the UK.
Yeah.
So he's now obviously suiting up there. There's quite a few. I mean, I've not seen all the team announcements yet, but there's Jonathan Phillips is coming back and playing with it. Jonathan Weaver, I think, is in it as well. Basically, I mean, I think a lot of I haven't seen all of the team announcements. I don't think they've necessarily all been made, although they might have been by now. And see, I think a lot of the players are realising, GB players who are still here in this country and are not abroad in a league that's playing have gone, if I want ice time before the World Championships, I need to play in this league.
Absolutely. And you know, it's kind of like, similar to if the Elite League had a lockout year, you know, like kind of similar to when the NHL's had lockouts and players have gone, even like earlier this year when prospects and players moved over to elsewhere in Europe to get ice time. And it means that, you know, the NIHL is going to get an influx of Elite League quality players, which will mean that the overall quality of the on-ice product for this next streaming series and set will be improved, and all the Elite League fans will want to watch it as well, because A, it's the only hockey they've got available in this country, and B, it's got some of their favourite players from their favourite team playing as well. I just wanted to add in that Liam Kirk played with Hanhals IF of the Hockey Etten, obviously, earlier this year. 10 points in 12 games, an even 5 goals, 5 assists, only 2 penalty minutes, and he was a -3, so not the best defensively.
See, I'm interested to see
but yeah.
how... I'm interested to see how kind of different of a player he is. I kind of have visions of him coming back and just like weaving in and out of everybody and scoring about 5 goals a game.
Oh, could you imagine?
You know, interesting to see how him going away has affected that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I'll catch a few games if I can. Because I'm not busy doing all the other bits and pieces. But yeah, and the fact that you've got hockey back in the UK is great. I'm hoping that it goes successfully and the Nottingham Lions can come back and get some free streaming back for the Nottingham Lions, because that's always well received. But I mean, I'll just finish up really, because I know I'm conscious of the time as well. In that, the one thing that struck out to me, and I was talking to one of my BBC colleagues, Chris Ellis, and we had him on the podcast.
Indeed.
And I said how I found it interesting that Neil Black said that he said, I'm just trying to find it because I remember it, but he said that the DCMS were unaware that the ice hockey was the most watched indoor sport in the UK. And I raised this with Chris, and he said, yeah, I can believe him on that.
Yeah.
And I think, we have said for a long time about how, because it doesn't have the excess media coverage and everything like that, that the government did not realise how big in the UK the Elite League is.
Yeah.
I can believe that.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those strange situations where, like, it is a big sport, but at the same time, the large majority of people in the country have no idea it exists. Like, it's such an interesting concept, because, like, even the same with, I would imagine a lot of NHL markets, you could tell them, like, oh, you have, like, a professional hockey team, like, in your city, right? And a lot of them would be like, really? Like, we have, like, an NHL team? Oh, yeah, like, they won the Stanley Cup 3 years ago kind of thing. So I guess that happens on all levels, on all kind of sports, unless it's, like, you've got a world-class team there, but... Yeah, I mean, the good thing is hockey's coming back to the UK, whether it be just the Spring Cup, whether the Spring Cup whether it goes well or not, at least we're going to get some form of follow-up to the streaming series, because obviously I would imagine they use that as a basis to get this money as well, to be like, look, we've managed to run this and it actually worked quite well. If we have weekly testing involved, then, where we can put ourselves in a position where everybody's kept safe and we can provide an entertainment product that can bring in money at the end of the day. So yeah, just kind of finish off, really good news to see. And I think most British hockey fans, other than the owners of the Elite League teams, will be happy to hear about this. So fair play to them. So Chris, we've been recording for a very long time today. We always end up doing this, don't we? We're like, oh, we'll try and get it to like...
We do.
Like, we'll try and get it to like an hour and 10 minutes. Then we end up going like 25 minutes over what we usually do, including the bonus clips.
I think it will start to come down, because when things like the KHL go into the playoffs and you go, right, the Series R, SKA are 1 up. These are 1 up. They're 2 up. They're 1 up. Right, that's KHL done. Moving on. I think it'll bring the stats and standings down considerably.
But at the same time, we've said that like all year long when it's like, let's look at the scores. And then we sit there and actually sit there and have, as we should do, I think, have a proper conversation about the scores and the stats and stuff.
Like the Austrian League, like we did today. Where
exactly.
We spent about 15 minutes about talking about these points allocations.
How bloody stupid it is, in my opinion. But anyway.
No, round up.
On that note of the Austrian League stupidity, I think it's time to end today's episode of the Europuck podcast. A big thank you once again to DraftKings and Crosscheck Clothing for sponsoring this episode. I really do appreciate it, and we hope you guys enjoyed the show, whether you watched it on YouTube or you listened to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is you're listening on it to. So if you want to keep updated on all things Europuck podcast, or send us your thoughts, opinions, questions, topics, anything like that for our next show, we want to let us know how this episode went, whether you liked it or you didn't like it. Let us know at the Europuck podcast on Twitter and or Instagram. Either's fine. We'll take either. And if you enjoyed listening to either or both of your hosts today, which, I mean, it's been about an hour and 50 minutes. Yeah, particularly Chris. It's been about 90 minutes for the main episode.
You can't hate us that much.
Yeah, you must be, I bloody hate those guys. They've been sitting here talking to me for 90 minutes. But yeah, you can follow myself on Twitter at OddmanRushYT, as you can see on the screen if you're watching YouTube, or at Chris_Gadsby. But yeah, thanks again for listening and or watching, guys, and we really appreciate it. We'll see you again next time. Have a good one, folks.